recaps of the debates because he cuts out all the stuff that I wasn't interested in the first place.
Sure. I like the debates because I like the intellectual exchange. If as long as you're debating someone who's smart and not stupid, they'll make
Mhm.
good arguments that you have to react to on the fly and know enough about philosophy and epistemology to find the holes in those arguments and see if they have thought through the potential arguments against their position, which most of them haven't. They've usually read the book moves, the book responses to typical arguments like the cosmological fine tuning, et cetera, et
Mm.
cetera. And so there's
Mhm.
several book responses, but most of the ones I come up with are pretty original to me. And so seeing professors um, comprehend what my argument is and try to respond to it, I think is very interesting.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, I debated in college, in high school and college, and was quite good at it. But I am not as good at the type of debating that is done in which was it became a contest of who can say the most words. And when I was invited to judge debate, I actually counted people down if they spoke so fast that I couldn't understand them. Um, and so when I've debated, I start with a 8-minute prepared or 12-minute, how much ever time I've got, and cram as much as I can get into it without trying to sound like an auctioneer, like is done in the NDT style of debate. And yet I found that even that is too much for the community that we debate in now.
Yes, I think
It's
that
a more conversational style.
right. I think that the formal debates in colleges, like the Lincoln Douglas, all of those different styles are absolute terrible. They're completely worthless. They're absolutely irrelevant to any rational human being or regular human being who's trying to learn anything. It's mostly just a academic presentation of random facts you know about the particular topic.
Mhm.
If you actually want to convince people, then you're going more of like a TED Talk style, where you present here's three of the most compelling points relative to the topic, and here's the evidence for those points. And that's a better way to do debates. It's just objectively better at compelling people, at being convincing, at being meaningful, having people remember it at every metric that you could possibly want out of a debate. It's better in every way. And so I think it's really sad that colleges and academic forms of debate have not caught up with society and their style of debate, and they're still focused on those very bullet points, mass information explosions that are just completely a waste of time.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's why I see things like the Harris debate with William Lane Craig, or the Richard Dawkins and John Lennox debate. Like those debates were very good, very compelling. They affected a lot of people. But then if you look at like a Lincoln Douglas debate against any of the professors, nobody cares. Nobody watches. Nobody cares. It means nothing.
Mm. Mm. I was so impressed watching Alex O'Connor debate, that he doesn't take notes. You know, when I'm in a debate, I'm rapidly taking notes of what my opponent has to say and figuring out what I want to address, and he just sits there and listens quietly and then gets up, and I'm just blown away that he can do that. Which style do you do?
Um, yeah, I pretty much don't take notes ever either. It's usually counterproductive because normally
Okay.
when you're listening to an opponent's speech, you want to focus on the same thing as a TED Talk. Focus on their three strongest points. Nothing else matters. Doesn't matter. You don't have to address it. You can just ignore it. Focus on the things that the audience latches onto and what they're saying. And if there's going to be like two or three points that are really good, really powerful, easy to understand, and those are the things the audience are going to be like, yeah, that made sense. I understood that. And so if you can debunk those points, nothing else the opponent said mattered. They could have made 100 points. No one's going to care. The things that the people really latch onto are the ones that you have to debunk, and they're pretty obvious usually. And so you just can note them in your head, like, yep, that those are the three I want to talk about, and then you can just wait for them to finish pretty much. Also, I don't like Alex O'Connor. He talks way too much. Oh, it
Oh,
hurts
really?
my brain. He uses
Mm.
way too many words to express a point that is just could have been expressed in like one sentence. I hate that. He talks way too much.
I forgive him because he's so young. You know, he's got some growing up to do yet.
You have to hold it against him because he has a British accent, which is unfair to the rest of us. So hold him to a higher standard.
You also do a Sunday program, and what is the name of that program?
Has like 3 names, but the Church of the Best Possible World, Theist Helpline, and Philosophy Kindergarten are the 3 names that has been given.
Okay.
So I started a church, a 501c3 nonprofit, a secular church based on my model of morality. The goal is to provide affordable housing. The goal is to buy an apartment building and provide housing that rent doesn't go up or doesn't go up ridiculous amounts. So
Mhm.
that is my passion project, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And
And how does that work? What do you do for that?
just the Sunday thing. Sunday. It's just like church, like any church. You have a Sunday thing where
Oh,
you
okay.
gather and do events and stuff. And I'd like to grow it into groups, like you do young adult groups or reading groups, book groups, whatever. That'd be cool. But just not big enough. Don't have enough local people in it, I guess. I only have the online YouTubers pretty much.
Mm, okay. I was wondering, you said that one of the goals of the group is to provide, housing for the homeless. Do you work with Habitat for Humanity, or do you do service projects where you build homes or anything
I
like that?
used to do volunteering for some of those things, but no. The goal isn't specifically for the homeless. It's affordable housing for all, for everyone.
Okay.
So most people, especially in big cities, are paying. There's that quote: "Rent is too damn high." It's that one.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, providing affordable housing, there isn't really a market for mid-level apartment complexes. They're all really expensive or really cheap for Class C, like homeless people. And so, there should be a market for those people because they make up the majority of Americans. There just isn't for financial reasons usually.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of the things in Seattle, a lot of the and this isn't quite what you're talking about, but there's a huge homeless segment that are working people. It's just that people don't make enough money to get housing with.
Yep. And rent keeps growing to the point where even if you continue to work, you're never going to save enough money to be able to buy a home because you have to spend all your money on rent.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, how long have you been on YouTube?
I don't know, 6 or 7 years or something.
Okay.
Or just maybe just my main channel. I guess I was doing it for a few years before that when I was doing gaming stuff on my T-Jump gaming channel.
Okay. How many channels do you have?
Just those 2 are the ones I actually do anything on. I have like an ASMR channel with like 1 or 2 videos.
Mhm.
Has like 100 subscribers, but I don't do anything on it.
Okay. Where do you hope to go in the future?
The moon? No,
Seriously? You
no,
you
no,
you want Oh, okay.
no. Why would it's a rock, there's no air, it's cold. Why would I do that? I live in Minnesota, it's close enough. Um, I mean, I would like to grow my own church significantly. That would be great, where I could promote my model of morality, do affordable housing, write books, hopefully usurp the Christian model of morality and show that the model I have is better, superior. We can all make fun of Jesus drowning babies. It'd be great.
What is your model for morality?
So I wrote, and I believe morality is objective. So contrary to most online atheists, I believe there really is objective morality, and that's the consensus in philosophy, who are mostly atheists. The most academic philosophers are atheists, but they still believe in objective morality. So I
Okay.
think that morality is a thing. It is true. There is a right morality. And mine is that any involuntary imposition of will is immoral. So forcing anybody to do anything they don't consent to doing is immoral. And a morally perfect world would be one where no one was ever forced to do anything they don't consent to doing by other humans or by nature. So if you didn't consent to age, you wouldn't age. Didn't consent to get hungry, you wouldn't get hungry. Didn't consent to die, you wouldn't die. And to do that, we don't nearly have the technological ability to build such a world yet. But the point of that morality is to establish what a perfect moral world would look like, and then to reverse engineer what we can do today to get as close to that world as possible. So like one thing like legalizing marijuana or whatever, doing things that don't hurt people, and allowing them to do those things as much as they want without restriction. So like, because marijuana doesn't kill anyone. It can't. You literally can't smoke enough to kill yourself. So it shouldn't be illegal. It shouldn't be like a cocaine class, whatever drug. It's
Right.
dumb.
Right.
And so things like releasing people from prison for nonviolent crimes, lowering the cost of living, because paying rent is something people don't consent to do typically. They don't want to pay rent. They just have to. So I think that the goal of the world should be to minimize the number of involuntary impositions of will, minimize the number of times we force people to do things they don't consent to doing. And so that's my morality.
In a perfect world, would there be no governments?
Only if you wanted one, you could have a government if people consented to it. So like people could consent to build a government, or you could have your own little world with yourself as the government if you wanted to. But in order for a government to exist, every one of the occupants of that world would have to consent to it being there.
The thing that I'm thinking is the primary goal or primary purpose of a government is to establish rules, which people are then required to follow, whether they consent or not.
Well,
And if
rules aren't a problem. The problem is involuntary rules. So like people play video games and they follow all kinds of rules, but they do it consensually. And so rules are great if you like the rules. But if you don't like the rules and you're forced to abide by them without your consent, that's when it becomes immoral.
okay, so then in the ideal society, would a person have the option of obeying or not obeying the rules, whether they agree to them or not?
Well, so the first stage is that everybody gets their own little world essentially, and they get to define whatever the rules are in their world. Now, if you want to enter somebody else's world or their home essentially, then you would have to consent to their rules. And so you would have
Mm,
to voluntarily agree to live by whatever rules they set in their world. And so in that case, yes, you would have to choose to obey those rules, and you wouldn't be able to violate them as long as you were in the home of the other person. But if you don't want to, you can just not go to their world. So you don't have to listen to those rules. So you do have the option to either go to their world and obey the rules, or not go to their world and not obey the rules. And so, yes, you would have the option, but you would only be able to not obey the rules if they allowed it, essentially, in their world. Your world, you can do whatever
okay,
you want.
okay. I'm trying to think of some scenarios where that would cause problems, and I'm specifically thinking of, like in work when you're required to interact with other people. Say take your job for example. You're required to go deliver a sandwich to someone because they ordered it, but you don't want to abide by that person's rules. You can't deliver their sandwich. I suppose you could leave it at the bottom of the driveway. Uh,
Well, in this world, if I wanted money, I could just snap my fingers and generate money. So I wouldn't have to
ah,
have a job.
I see.
Um,
I see.
so like you could have a job, but it would be optional. So if I consent to have a job, then I consent to the rules of the job, which would include delivering the sandwiches or whatever. But it wouldn't be required in the best of all possible worlds, because in that world, anything anything nature could do to you, like hunger, starvation, coldness, you can just turn it off like a dial. It's your world. You can do whatever you want with it.
Okay. I think I like that world, but unfortunately, we don't have that world.
That's right. But it has more evidence than God, so I'm ahead.
Ah, okay, okay. Now, what is your educational background?
I started doing college, started for computer science, dropped out, started doing philosophy, never tried to get a degree in it, but just for interests, for hobbies.
Mhm,
That was it.
okay. Do you have any intention of trying to finish a degree at any point, or are you happy with where you are?
Um, if I had enough spare money, I'd want to go to college, mostly just to meet women, though. I wouldn't care about the degree at all.
I see. I see.
Get a degree in hairstyling or something, because it's the best one.
Really?
Yes,
The
Aveda,
pay is
Aveda.
terrible.
Oh, so yes, the goal of college is to meet women, so it's not about the pay. I don't care about the pay. It's not.
Ah,
So
Okay,
go
gotcha.
to
Gotcha.
Aveda, take a class at Aveda, get your hair cut at Aveda. Aveda is the best.
Okay. Mark Caesar says, of your world, we can all dream.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you come to be an atheist, or have you always been an atheist?
I was brought up in a Christian home. My parents and sister are both Christian. Went to a Christian grade school, Christian Catholic high school. I lost my faith sometime in high school because I had major depression. I forget what the technical term was. There's another M word in there somewhere. But I had suicidal major depression for a very long time, and I couldn't believe that there was an all-powerful, all-loving being who cared about me more than anything, but was doing nothing to help me, even though it was not that hard to accomplish for an all-powerful being. And so that caused me to lose my faith in Christianity. I didn't
Mhm.
officially become an atheist until after learning more about the philosophy. I got into learning philosophy as one of the ways to try to cure the depression. And so I started watching the Four Horsemen, Hitchens, Harris Dawkins, Dennett,
Mhm.
resonated
Mhm.
with their belief structure, their standards of evidence. And that's really when I became an atheist.
Less Than Lucid says, "Oh, yikes, I hope you're doing better now."
Yes,
Are
I am
you?
doing better. I found my cure. Instagram
Okay.
models.
Instagram models.
Yes, dating Instagram models. That was the cure for me.
Actually going on dates, or are these imaginary dates?
No, they're real dates, real physical relationships. It was sex. Sex was the solution.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's fascinating. I've never heard anyone say that. Um, are you in a relationship right now?
Yeah, I have like a friends with benefits relationship, not a girlfriend though. I would like a girlfriend, but right now I don't have a way to meet women who are my type,
Mm,
who are looking for that kind of relationship.
okay. Well, there are 23 people in the audience right now. If you are a young woman that might be interested in T-Jump, there are links to his channel and to his Patreon and to his PayPal. And so you can contact T-Jump and let him know that you are interested in a relationship. What do you have coming up in the future?
I think I have a modern day debate on creationism next week, 29th or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, haven't really done much online for a while. Just been reposting old stuff for a while.
I've heard some complaints recently about modern day debate that it's not what it used to be and it's kind of deteriorating. What's your opinion on that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So I know that when it started off, it was more serious. There's more genuine debates with actual like apologists and atheists and stuff. Now it's mostly dumpster fires with
Mhm.
flat earthers and creationists. So in that sense, I guess so. But those kinds of debates typically get more views. So I'd understand why James would select those over the more intellectual professor types.
Yeah, I understand that. Matt Dillahunty was saying one of the problems is that a lot of people come on just wanting to get the exposure, wanting to get the publicity of having been there, and really are not interested in a serious debate. Have you ever had an issue with that?
Oh yeah, the flat earthers, and there was I think either the last one or the one before that where there was a guy who had no interest in the debate whatsoever and was
Oh,
just there
really?
to tell his story. Essentially, he literally just said that during the debate. So yeah, people like that are definitely a problem. I don't see there's a problem with wanting the exposure. Like that's why I go on, because I want the exposure. As long
Mhm.
as you are there for the topic or know something about the topic or doing something related to the topic, it doesn't make a difference. But yeah, people who are just there do completely ignore the topic and are just promoting themselves. Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay. So your opponent that's going to debate you on creationism, do you have any idea what his agenda is at this point?
Nope,
Hmm. Probably doesn't really make much difference, does it?
not really.
I see a few people trying to bring intelligent design into schools again. And I'm really surprised at that, as I really thought that the Supreme Court had put the lid on that, and yet people are trying again.
Well, they're religious, so they're not gonna stop. They didn't stop even when the
Mhm.
Supreme Court did the thing. They just changed it from, what was it? The Pandas and People book, where they changed the words from creationism to intelligent design and then just kept everything else the exact same.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
being religious and dogmatic, they're not gonna stop trying to do that ever.
Do you get into politics at all?
Yes, I have done a number of debates on politics. They're not as popular, though.
Okay. Okay. I've found the same thing as well. I occasionally do a show on politics, and those are not my more popular shows either. But part of it I've always considered was some of those are somewhat local. Um, I live in Alabama, and I don't know if you know this, but Tommy Tuberville is now our senator. And I did a couple of shows on how awful Tommy Tuberville would be as a senator because he doesn't know enough to be a senator. He can't read when it's raining. Uh, uh, he didn't know what the 3 branches of government were even after he got elected as senator.
They're what?
Um
Pizza, hamburgers, and steak, right? Uh,
Uh, and so I wasn't too surprised that a lot of people didn't really watch my videos on how awful it would be if he got elected, because that was really only specific to my state. As that's what people thought, but as it turns out, it was not specific. I mean, he held up those military promotions for months, and he crippled our entire national government. And if people would have listened to me and poured a lot of money into Jones's campaign, we might have been able to get Jones back in.
yeah, I think that mostly they're all idiots. They're all useless.
Yeah, it would have been difficult though, because in my state, Democrat is still a dirty word,
Yep.
except in Birmingham. Other than in Birmingham, it is really tough to find someone that can even run as a decent Democratic candidate because everyone knows they haven't got a chance.
Yeah, we need to replace all the politicians with AI. That would be the best solution, especially in America.
Okay. Mark Caesar has a question for you. He asks, do you think the popularity of modern day debate is dropping? I seem to think it's becoming more about quantity than quality.
I don't know. He's up in subscribers a lot. I don't know. Haven't checked his viewer watch time, but I imagine it's still up. I think he's down since he lost Dillahuntty because he Dillahuntty was essentially the main drive to the channel more than anything
Mhm,
else. But his
mhm.
shorts are still doing very good.
Less Than Lucid says, I'm from a military family, so to see those promotions held was really angering. Yeah, and there were a lot of vets right here in Alabama that were really upset with him too. And he didn't care. He thought that, making sure that people in the military can't get abortions was more important.
Yep, because it's the religious dogma thing. So you take the topics that the constituents want, that they're emotionally engaged by, rather than things that actually make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm. Which brings me to a point that Trump was ranting about the other day, which was completely illucid. He was saying that, if he's elected, there isn't gonna be any of this 6-week, 13-week, 20-week stuff. But he didn't elaborate. You know how he is. He just kinda throws out words and kinda leaves them hanging. But I got the impression from that his intent is to push for a complete and total national ban on abortion,
That's
which
most
I don't.
Christians' goal. Most of the Christian right is their goal.
Right, right, and I think that was exactly his point, was to try to appeal to them, um, but I don't think he actually has any intent on doing that. However, I find that frightening. I find that really frightening.
Sure, yeah. I don't think it would be possibly be illegal for a number of reasons, but yes, that would be very bad.
We've got one state already, Idaho, that has put a total ban on abortion even to save the life of the mother.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's in the courts right now. Ah,
I actually got a super chat on my end from Samir for saying, he says, if there's a pill to never be hungry, would you take it and never enjoy a steak, ice cream, or coffee again? Would that be a gain or a loss? So those are two different things. Taking a pill to never be hungry doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to eat or enjoy food. Like flavor, you can still have. So you can still eat steaks and ice creams and coffee and never be hungry. Those were not contradictory things. So yes, I would take a pill to not be hungry because that make losing weight significantly easier. But I'd still enjoy steak and ice cream and coffee.
would your body then just eliminate those as it didn't need them?
Probably, yeah. So it'd be like if food was made out of something that was undigestible, it still tastes
I
the same.
once Yeah. I once read a sci-fi book where people had the option of eating real food or vanishing food. Um, and if you chose the vanishing food right after you ate it, it just disappeared.
Yeah, well, I'd like it to go to my stomach first and then disappear because I like the sensation of fooding is good.
Ah, okay. For me, it's just the taste.
Well,
I
actually,
really wouldn't care.
I don't want it to disappear because that's one of my sources of income. I need that. I need that poop money.
Ah, okay. Yep. Good point. Good point. That was exactly the point of the woman that I brought up that lived in North Korea was that the government was asking them to please produce more poop, but they had no food. They couldn't produce more poop because they didn't have any
Yep.
food. Uh, Mage Grey Wolf says the last Dillahunty debate where he walked off needed to be moderated much better, though MDD needs better moderation in general. Have you had any issues with the moderation?
What moderation?
Ah, okay. I have watched a few that were moderated by Erica Gutsup Gibbon, and I thought she did just fine, although the contestants really didn't get into it at all, and so she really didn't have a whole lot to do either. And I think that's the ideal in a debate. Would you not agree that the moderator doesn't really do anything?
Right. The moderator shouldn't do anything unless it's necessary. But if the moderator doesn't do anything when it's necessary, then they're not doing anything at all. So that's, I think, the crucial line that needs to be figured out is that you need somebody who can actually control the people and in the right way. And I don't think the moderators do that on modern day debates.
Yeah. I think Math Pig is a really good moderator. Are you familiar with Math Pig?
Yes.
Okay. Because he's pretty good at getting people to cool down and return to the topic. Eric Mishima wants to know do you get paid for your poop donation?
2,000 a month ish. 1 to 2,000 a month.
That's pretty good.
That's why I do it. I don't do it because it's good for the world. No, I want the monies. So yeah, the way it works is you get $30 per donation, maximum of 2 a day, and then you also get paid for. They require you to take 3 COVID tests because you need to be tested for that for the safety of the recipient.
Person receiving,
And they pay
yeah.
you $50 for each COVID test, which is great.
Limited Light says pigs can't do math.
Yes, they can. Pigs are extremely smart. Pigs are one of the smartest animals there is. They're smarter than dogs.
What else would you like people to know about you?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with high functioning autism and Asperger's.
Okay.
One of the things that is significant about that is they have special interests. People with Asperger's and autism have special interests, which matters more to them than pretty much anything else. My special interest is Instagram models. Surprise. And
Your special interest is what?
Instagram models, hot blondes,
Oh,
the
oh,
cure to
okay.
my depression. That's
Mhm.
why the that's why I'm so focused on them. And so for me, spending time with people, talking with people. The only time I'm really enjoying human interactions is with very attractive women like that. And that's always an odd thing to express, to tell to people, for people to understand.
I have a little bit of understanding in that I am asexual. And so I do enjoy the company of people, but not in the same way that a lot of other people do. And I tend to miss sexual cues, and I tend to miss, um, you know, noticing whether there's sexual attraction between people. And so I kind of get it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, when you have either a hyper-focused set of desires or a lack of desires, a lot of the things that other people are looking for, you just don't see or understand, pick
Mhm.
up on.
Mhm. Exactly. And it took me decades to figure that out. I noticed in high school, all the girls were, Prince Charles. I want to have Prince Charles. I'm older than I look. And
You're like,
and I was
36, 37? Yeah,
me?
that's right, right? 36, 37?
I'm 62.
I don't believe it. No, no.
I was in a room once with, well, I'm called Godless Granny. I have 5 grandchildren. My oldest grandchild just turned 12.
Oh, wow.
My youngest grandchild is 3. Um, my first child, now she was stillborn, but my first child, if she had lived, would turn 40 in May.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, I was on a panel with Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Ra, and people were making age jokes about Matt and Aaron, and I said, I'm older than both of them.
Well, they look old. They both look old.
That's just it. My hair is finally starting to go gray, which is kind of weird. That's why I look so young, is
Yep.
because my hair is still hasn't turned. But underneath, there's quite a bit of gray, and when it finally pops out, I'm think I'm just gonna start looking my age all of a sudden. What's really weird is I have a daughter that's 33, and she has more gray hair than I do.
Oh, wow.
But she's also a doctor, and I think that's why she has all the gray hair.
Yep. The stress-related work can definitely do that.
Mhm, mhm. Um, do you ever do anything with the support of the LGBTQ community? Is that one of your interests?
I don't usually have time for anything outside of work and girlfriend. That's, like,
Okay.
all I do now, work and girlfriend. I
Oh, I was
did.
thinking more in terms of your YouTube channel, if you ever
Hmm.
focus on that as one of your things you do on YouTube.
Not usually. That fits more into the political camp, so it doesn't get much of attention. I've done several debates in that area, but not many.
Mm.
Winston's mom has a question for you. Would you ask Godless Granny if she tests an MBTI as an ESTJ?
I have no idea what that
It's
is.
the I think it's the Myers-Briggs, the ISNG or ITNJ, those kinds of things.
Oh, the different personality
Yep.
types? I did that decades ago, but I don't remember much about the results. I know that I feel like I'm a very introverted person, but I didn't test as being all that introverted. Um, and so I think I'm introverted in some circumstances and extroverted in others. Like I'm very comfortable in this kind of a setting talking to anybody, but I'm much less comfortable with people in person, particularly men. I do have a fear of men.
I think I'd be the opposite. I agree that it's easier to talk to people online than in person, but I have a fear of really attractive women because they are so significant to me emotionally.
Mhm. I developed my fear of men when I realized how strong they were. I was 17 and I was waitressing, and a good friend who was also a waitress came in and she was all beat up, and she told me what happened, that her mother had beaten her. And there's a guy that always came in, and he was older. He was probably about 30, and he was just absolutely hung up on her. and she didn't want anything to do with him, and she didn't want him to know what had happened to her. And so when he saw her, he waited till I went on break, and he sat down next to me and put his arm around me and said, "What happened to Kim?" And I didn't want to tell him, and so I tried to slide under the booth and get out of there, and I very quickly discovered I couldn't move. And anyone looking at us would not know that he had me completely pinned and immobilized. And I was just terrified. I said, "This man is so strong, he can do whatever he wants, and there's not a darn thing I can do about it."
Yeah, there's a lot of physical differences between men and women, and being stronger is one of the biggest ones for sure.
Um, Back to a happier note, the ideal world. How do we go about getting to the ideal world?
Technology and science, pretty much.
Okay.
Like, as we've noticed that, as science progresses, we tend to give more freedoms to people: women's rights, LGBTQ rights, workers' rights, child's rights, animal rights. So, as technology increases and resources increase, improving the quality of lives of most people, they tend to be less acceptant of harming other conscious agents without consent.
Okay. Okay. Do you think Star Trek was on the right track, that maybe replicators are a big part of what will free us from needing money and jobs and so forth?
Sure, that would definitely work. I don't Star Trek had several major flaws. One was that there's no
Mm.
dedicated military. That was the dumbest thing. There would clearly be a dedicated military. Like, clearly you would have a dedicated military for space battles. Like, there's Klingons. Who would not have a dedicated? It just makes no sense. The guy in the movie who wanted to build the super ship that with weapons, like, he had the right idea. He was correct. The bad guy was correct in that movie. But yes, if we had replicators and ways to provide resources to people at a much greater rate. I think AI is going to be that for us rather than replicators. But yes, being able to provide resources is going to move people towards a more moral intuition about how we should treat other conscious agents.
Okay. Samir says TJ hates being interrupted and having to repeat himself, and I forgot the third one.
Me too. I think it's not being able to finish my points or something, the same as interrupted.
Okay. Mark Caesar says the Orville was a fairly good model of a perfect world.
Orville was meh. It was a meh show. It was very meh.
Well, they've just announced that there's going to be another season.
Yeah. I like the new Star Trek. A New World, Strange New Worlds, that one was really good.
Mm.
And then the
Mhm.
anime was
Mhm.
pretty funny too. Lower Decks, I like that one.
I haven't seen that one. I've never gotten into anime. It's funny because my son keeps showing me anime and like and I just it's very rare for me to enjoy anime.
Sure. Did you see the crossover episode where Strange New Worlds did worked with the Lower Deck cast, and they did like a crossover? That was pretty cool. That was interesting.
No, I haven't seen Lower Decks yet either. I'll have to look for it. Do you know what it's streaming on?
I stream it on pirate websites because I pirate all my stuff online, so I have no idea.
Ah, okay. Okay. Samir says Japan seems to have more technology than most countries. Do you believe that they are happier?
Than most countries, yes. I mean, the standard of most countries is pretty low. Um, but I think the happiness index of Japan is still really high comparatively to everywhere. I think they're in the top 8 of most happy countries. Yes.
Mm. Mm. And this is kind of personal to a lot of people here. Purple Rhymes with Oranges says, "Sorry, I'm late. Sloth Girl needed help." I hope Sloth Girl is okay, and I hope you were able to take care of whatever it was that Sloth Girl needed. Let's see. Mage says SNW has completely screwed up the character of Spock.
I don't think it's a good show. I don't think so. I think they're fine. Like, because they're exploring his younger years, which makes sense that he would be more emotional in or more, I don't know, strange in his younger years than his older years. So I think that makes sense. I don't think that's a
Mhm.
contradiction.
Okay. Um, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover with you. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I have no idea. I know I'm
Okay.
working to see if you need chess classes, chess lessons or something, or philosophy lessons. Hire me to teach you stuff. Give me money. Like,
Really?
comment, subscribe. Yeah,
That might not be a bad idea because I don't know much philosophy, and I don't really want to go take a class at a university because I'm not going to get what I want out of that class. I mean, about 1% of what they teach is gonna be what I'm actually looking for.
sure.
I did take Philosophy 101 in college. That was 40 years ago. I don't remember very much of it. Um, but yeah, I might possibly take you up on that. I've had a number of people tell me, "Well, what's your thought on this?" And they'll bring up some philosophical concept. I don't know.
The correct answer is
Well,
solipsism. Just say solipsism every time they say that, and you're good.
oh, really?
Solipsism is the
Okay.
position that only your mind exists and everything else is a figment of your imagination.
Ah, okay. Usually when I say I don't know something, then they say, "Well, how can you call yourself an atheist if you don't know philosophy?" It's I don't need to know philosophy to not believe that there are any
That's right.
gods.
That's right.
Mm. Well, we are almost out of time, so I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap us up early, especially since you said you were tired and you just got off work and you've worked a long day. So, I'll go ahead and let you know go early. But first, I do want to let people know what I have coming up on my channel, and that is on Saturday. My stream is going to be with inspiring philosophy. And we're going to talk specifically about child brides. And most of the time, I do not agree with Michael on, at inspiring philosophy, but this is one area where the two of us actually agree that child brides are not a good thing.
I was there at his debate with Daniel Hakikichu on that one. Or
Oh, you were?
well, it wasn't Hakikichu, that was the other guy, wasn't it? But yeah, I was there, that one.
It starts with an
Yes.
H.
No,
His last name starts
Hakikichu,
with an
yes,
H.
Hakikichu, that's it.
Uh-huh.
Pikachu like Hakikichu. Yeah, that was that
Yeah.
was that was brutal. That was painful to listen to. Mm.
I took a clip from that debate and used it in a video, to talk and showed where he said, yeah, he would endorse marriage with a 3-year-old. But the one thing that Michael didn't address that I really wish he would have brought up was, okay, is it okay for a 30-year-old woman to marry a 10-year-old boy? Because if the entire problem you're trying to address is outlet for sexual feelings in adolescence and pre-adolescence, adolescent boys have far more sexual drive than adolescent girls do. So are you going to marry off all the adolescent boys? And I don't think he would want to do that.
Actually, in the well, for inspiring philosophy, yeah, he wouldn't agree, but Hakikichu probably be totally fine with that because in the Muslim community, the male essentially owns the woman, so I don't think they would have
Mhm.
much issue with that at all. They'd probably be totally
You
fine
don't
with
think
it.
they'd have an issue with letting the boys get married at
I
10?
don't think so. I think as long as, like, they could have as many wives as they wanted to, essentially.
Mm. But they can't afford to take care of them.
That's true, but I don't think that's really a
That's not an
concern.
issue?
Like, I think the vast majority of, marriages in the Muslim world are probably not financially rational. I think that they're essentially just, lustful or out of ownership rights or something. I don't think they're very financially secured. I think the financially secured kinds of relationships are more what we see in the Western world, where it's like a single family with 1 kid, not 8 kids, not 4 wives. I think that the financial stability of those kinds of relationships is very bad for the Muslim community.
I had been under the impression that that was how it was determined that a young man was ready to get married, was that he was ready to take care of a family.
That's a rational way to do it, but
Dan E. says philosophy is just a distractionary technique regarding religion. When you can't produce Jesus, you produce arguments which are not evidence of the supernatural.
it's sort of true. It's partially true that when you have a field that doesn't succeed, or you have a hypothesis that doesn't succeed in one field, like geology, cosmology, physics, biology, you will try every other field to try and find one where it does work well. And philosophy is the only one that it hasn't been fully debunked yet, essentially, um, which is purely a technicality because most philosophers reject it entirely. But there are entire schools with funding of billions of dollars dedicated to Christianity, which is the only reason that it's still alive in philosophy.
Mm. Mm. Dan E. asks, inspiring theology talk when? And the answer to that is Saturday at 3:30 Central Time.
Uninspiring
And
theology. Was a little
yeah.
zinger there.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me. It has been a pleasure having you on, and I've enjoyed the talk. It's been good getting to know you.
Thank you. Appreciate the offer. And if you know any hot blonde Instagram models, call me.
Okay, I will do that.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Live your life.
Mm.